Welcome, everybody, to today's professional development webinar, where we're going to talk about how you can navigate your path for lifelong learning with IFMA credentials. A couple of housekeeping items are going to be let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to see all the areas that people tune in from. We also want to ask you to like us and share us. This helps build your network. This helps build everybody's network to have a little bit more exposure to IFMA and some of the things that we offer and talk about. If you have any questions about earning your IFMA credential, feel free to share it in the chat. If we don't get to it during the webinar, that's okay. We will try to have somebody reach out to you to get your questions answered. If you've already earned your credential, feel free to share it with us. We love to see all the credential holders that are out there. Joining me today is Starlyn Chadwick, and she is also one of the account managers here on the professional development team. And we are going to have a special guest. We'll get him introduced in just a moment. Starlyn, would you like to share a little bit of information about IFMA?
Absolutely, Gail. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here today. First, I want to go over just IFMA in general. If you're new to us, we have been in the industry for actually, it's going to be 45 years this year. So over 40 years, but 45 exactly in 2025. And we've grown to have over 25,000 members in over 130 countries across the world, which is just absolutely fabulous to have such a robust network of people to be able to work with. Our mission here at IFMA is to lead the future of the built environment to make the world a better place. And that's what you guys are doing every single day in your jobs. You're trying to make your facility a better place for your employees as well as the people visiting the facility. So you in turn are in fact making this world a better place. And our vision is to advance our collective knowledge, value, and growth for FM professionals such as yourselves to perform at your highest level. We want to make sure that you succeed. So, one way of doing that is our IFMA credentials and training. So, first, getting into this session specifically, we're going to go through pathfinding and talk a little bit more about the credentials themselves so that you have an understanding of what we offer. Then we're going to be talking a little bit more about the value and the benefits of these credentials so you understand what you're getting into and what they can bring to your career, and just the different options that we have available, the flexibility. And as Gail mentioned, we have a treat today. We get to visit with a person who actually holds all three IFMA credentials. So that is going to be fantastic. So Gail, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you so you can go over the credentials in detail so people know what we're talking about when we start throwing out all kinds of acronyms. As Gail mentioned, if you have any questions along the way, please put them into the chat. We'd love to hear it. Oh, I can see some of our people are coming through. Welcome, New Orleans, Denver, Colorado, San Francisco. It's great to see everyone. Go ahead, Gail.
Perfect. So this is going to be just a quick overview of the training programs that we offer. IFMA and our credentials and certification are globally recognized. IFMA is ANAB accredited. I'm sure you're wondering, what does that even mean? It's a great way to have an unbiased review of the information that we provide in our credentials. It ensures that everybody who, say, signs up and enrolls in the FMP has the same experience across the board. This is a way that we can ensure that it protects our integrity and it keeps the credentials and the certification true in value. So the essentials is a great starting point for anybody who is new to facility management or is in an adjacent role. The next step, if you start with the essentials, would be the FMP or the facility management professional. This is going to be a great starting point for anybody who has at least 1 year of experience in facility management. It covers 4 foundational competencies, and it really sets the table for what you can expect in the profession. It can also fill gaps if you have a lot of on-the-job training. It's just a really great starting point. It's a lifelong credential. If you continue on this lifelong journey, the next step could be the SFP or Sustainability Facility Professional Credential. Wow, that was a mouthful. This is a great way to focus on sustainable practices that you can now implement into your organization. It is a program that will provide, again, a lifelong credential once completed. And this could all lead up to our certification, the CFM or Certified Facility Manager. This is an exam that does have eligibility requirements. In order to sit for the exam, there are no study materials that are required to take or complete to sit for the exam. However, we do have some available. Again, if you have questions about any of these training programs, we are here to get those answered for you. We also want to ensure that if you are not sure where to get started, we will have a resource at the end that can help guide you. So, without further ado, I think we're ready. Starlin, you want to introduce our guest speaker today?
Absolutely. So it's my pleasure to introduce Brent Ward. You may have seen him if you've been on any of these webinars before. He's a great supporter of IFMA and he always joins and adds in some really valuable key information. So we wanted to have him come on and speak because he specifically has the FMP, SFP, and the CFM, and he's an IFMA qualified instructor. So just a fantastic person to bring on and visit about the IFMA credentials. Brent, welcome.
Well, thank you. Good to be
Yeah,
here.
great. And if you don't mind just kind of introducing yourself, tell us a little bit of your background professionally so that we can dig in.
Well, I was raised in a construction family, so I've got a big construction background behind me. I spent about 10 years in the maintenance side of things, so combining those two has been a fantastic piece for being a facility manager. I joined IFMA in 2019. I'm currently president of the Oregon Southwest Washington chapter, vice president of the Facilities Consultants Council. I'm on the America's Advisory Board for IFMA, and I was just pointed out in July, I will start as a trustee for the IFMA Foundation. So got a few things going on with IFMA.
Yes, it's fantastic. We're glad to have you and all your expertise and everything that you bring to the table. So thank you so much for all that you do for IFMA and
Mhm.
for doing this with us today. So I want to dive in a little bit to your journey with the credentials. You mentioned that you joined in 2019. Can you explain a little bit about what interested you in the credentials? Where did you know where to start? And were your eyes on the FMP first?
Yeah, they were on the FMP first. I had just been laid off from my job with the school district and was looking for work. I had been in on the maintenance side of things, and then I had been their maintenance coordinator, managing all of their capital projects. And so I knew that I loved facilities management, and I just made it a goal that I was going to take no job other than a facility manager. That was what I was going to apply for, and that was what I was going to get. And when I got offered a job, the first question I asked them is, will you pay for me to get my FMP credentials? And they said, we will. I said, then I accept.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm glad it's good to hear that they were supportive. So, can you share a little bit about what the FMP brought to your skill set, how what it opened up for you as you went through the training?
Well, you know, even with all of that experience, there's a lot of things that you don't know. And you don't know what you don't know until you find out you didn't know it. So, going through those courses, I knew a lot about operations and maintenance and project management, but I think the thing that I appreciated the most was the finance and budget section, because that was my weak point, and that enabled me then to speak the right language to my boss, who was the CFO, so that we could speak intelligently to each other. I could understand what she was saying, and then I could get my point across to her. So the value is that there there are areas that we all need to be bolstered up in our knowledge, and going through those four uh, areas just really helped in me being able to be confident in speaking to those around me.
Fantastic. So, just kind of moving forward, kind of towards the SFP. Once you received your FMP, what made you want to pursue the SFP afterwards?
The company I was with, same company, wanted to form a green team. They wanted to be more sustainable than they were, and they wanted to head in that direction. And so I said, well, I can get us there. Will you pay for me to get my SFP? Yes, we will. So I went ahead and got my SFP. I got it about 2 years after I got my FMP, and that too has been amazing. You don't. I didn't realize what all was involved in sustainability until I took that course. Now, I took the original SFP course. The new one is out there now, and I've gone through that one as well. But yeah, they are fantastic.
And can you share a little bit more about what surprised you on it? Was it the strategy that it involved, or what kind of about the SFP was surprising as you went through it?
Yeah, strategy was involved, and how deep that it got into the organization. You think sustainability, you think trash and water and power usage and that sort of thing, but it goes into the full operations of the organization, doing less things on paper and creating them in electronic forms, how and where you purchase things from, how and where you ship things to, are all part of sustainability. And I had no clue until I took that course.
I think
Do you
that's
feel? Oh,
Go
sorry. Go
ahead,
ahead,
go.
Sam.
No, that's fantastic information to share because that's things that most people don't realize.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And we always get asked, how does it correlate with like lead? So can you expand on a little bit more about how being an SFP could help a lead certified building and maintenance, like maintaining that lead certification?
Yeah, of course, the lead qualifications and certifications are a step above the SFP, but being an SFP and having that knowledge helped me to understand what was necessary in the records and why all of this information was necessary to maintain and gather and keep going, and even enhance in some cases to maintain that level. Uh, Preventative maintenance and maintenance programs even fall into play there, and so that was huge for me in being able to understand that whole systematic way of looking at sustainability and maintaining certifications, whether it's LEED or WELL or Green Globes or whatever it is.
Very, very, very good to know because LEED certified buildings are definitely very, very common these days, and people wonder what the difference is between LEED certifications and the SFP. And we try to explain the SFP is very much people motivated and teaching people how to implement the sustainable strategies to keep those buildings LEED certified. So,
Right.
thank you so much for sharing on that. And I'm seeing some questions come in, and I just want to clarify before we move on to you pursuing your CFM. The path that you went was FMP, SFP, CFM, but I just want to clarify for everybody that is not necessarily
No.
a required path. This is just the path that Brent went through. You are not required to have your FMP first to obtain your SFP or your CFM. This just so happens to be the order in which he obtained his credentials. So with that, Brent, so with your FMP and SFP, of course, we talked about how the pinnacle achievement is the CFM or the Certified Facility Manager, which is very different. It's an exam. This is not training that you go through. So a few questions that I have regarding the CFM is, did you prepare? And what did that look like? And what has that done for you since you've achieved your CFM?
Yeah, I chose to take all of the other 7 core competencies. I did that for 2 reasons. One, I knew there was areas in there that I needed help with, and so I wanted to get that help. But 2, it gave me a lot of confidence, just in day-to-day activities, but also going towards the test. And also, I now have all of those course books for reference, so I can refer to those anytime now that I have questions, and they're sitting right here on the shelf next to me, and I access them on a regular basis. So yeah, I think I went after the CFM. I got it just last August. I got it. I was self-employed as a contractor at the time, or I still am. but I got it because of the credibility that it gives me in the field, especially as a consultant in the field. To have that CFM after my name has really opened some doors. Whether you're want to be employed by someone or you want to be self-employed, it really doesn't matter. That CFM, uh, people recognize it. They know what it is, and it they automatically assume that you're a subject matter expert, and that has led me into areas that I hadn't anticipated. I'm getting calls to speak on facilities management and phases of that in areas because I have the CFM.
That's fabulous. And it really kind of leads us into the next part of the webinar where we want to communicate. And I think you did a beautiful job just now of communicating the value that IFMA credentials bring, and how each one has impacted your career as you've gone along and really opened up doors, either with conversations, whether it be at the job or with potential clients that you're talking to, that really back up your knowledge and expertise. One thing I wanted to clarify that you mentioned the 7 competencies. So when Brent says that, he's talking about the CFM tests over 11 competencies. 4 of those will be the FMP credential courses, and then the other 7 add up to create the 11 competencies that the CFM exam tests over. We do offer training in all of the competencies, but I do have to say, for the CFM, training is not required. If you feel like you have enough expertise to just go in and take that exam, you definitely can. But we always recommend to please prepare to be successful as you can be on your first try.
Mm-hmm.
So, but just talking a little bit more on the value, Gail, did you want to kind of go into a little bit more depth on how important it is to understand what IFMA credentials bring to the table?
Oh, absolutely. Some people do get pay increases. Some people have their ability to advance in their roles. I will say that our team really enjoys the follow up when people earn their credentials, whether it's the lifelong credentials or the certification. We like to cheerlead, so we do want to know whenever somebody completes it to cheer them on because it is a great accomplishment. Some of the conversations that I've had were because they didn't know what they didn't know, right? Brent, as you had mentioned earlier, when they took that finance and business course, they were privy to more information and more insight into, yeah, there's a budget, but what does that actually mean? How much of that budget is mine for this project that I want to start over here? And a couple of people that I've talked to in follow up said because they had that now knowledge from that course, they were able to speak more fluid about the budget, about the project, provide more information, more insight so that they could get the buy in from their C suite. And then it was funded. And they said without that information, without that credential, that was a huge turning point for them. And they were actually able to advance in their career a little quicker because they had that experience or that knowledge and they could adapt it to the experience that they had. So I believe, just to speak to what Brent has already said, that the opportunities are there. They might not be immediate, they might not be monetary immediately, but eventually you're going to be that subject matter expert that your organization leans on to be able to provide the information that they're looking for to better their facility, to better the experience of the people coming in, because it's not just about what you do in front of you. It's going to be what you're touching across the board.
Yeah, no, valid points. It's the knowledge is amazing that you gain, and like Starlin said, you don't have to take all of the core competencies. One of my buddies here in our local chapter uh, beat me to my CFM by a couple of weeks, but that's all right. I don't hold it against him. He chose to take the practice test and he nailed it and said, well, then I'm just going to go take my test. And he nailed the CFM exam as well. So and he has his FMP as well. He didn't have his SFP, but that was his course. And so yeah, there's all kinds of ways that you can get there.
Great point. And I also wanted to touch on, yes, this is very much on an individual level to continue your lifelong learning, but this applies within companies as well, especially companies that may have facilities distributed across the country or across the globe. Getting everyone speaking the same language can sometimes
Mhm.
just be a huge challenge. And so we have experience getting full teams trained or into the FMP or some even into the SFP. We realize that not everybody is at the same place in their career journey,
Hmm.
which kind of brings us into the tailored training aspect of it, is getting teams speaking the same language, so having a foundation of everyone understanding this is where we start, maybe at the FMP. But for those teams that have some specialty in sustainability, we also have the SFP. If you have a really strong real estate sort of situation, we have the standalone courses, as Gail mentioned. So just kind of going into how much our training can be tailored to each individual and each team. You don't have to do a one size fits all of everybody has to get their FMP or CFM.
Hmm.
Everyone starts at a different point. And Brent,
Mhm.
if you can shed a little bit of light, if you known anybody or seen anybody that has maybe started at a different spot, like gotten their CFM and then gone back and gotten their FMP or SFP.
I do. In fact, somebody here in our chapter just recently took the practice test, said, I got this, and went in and got his CFM, has neither the FMP or the SFP. And I was asking him why did he choose that course, that doing it that way. He says, well, obviously the CFM is it's the Rolls Royce of credentials for facilities managers. And he quietly said, I'm not happy where I'm at and I want to move on to another company. And I want that CFM so that they understand that I know what I'm doing, and are more willing to hire me. And it worked. 2 weeks later, he got a job offer and took it. So yeah, the CFM is, in fact, I got a phone call yesterday from the director of facilities at the Port of Vancouver here where I live. And he said, I'm retiring at the end of the year. We are going to be looking for my replacement. I want it out in the IFMA network because we want someone with their CFM.
Fantastic. That see,
So,
and I love stories like that because it shows that there's just variability in the field. And
Mhm.
that's not to say that if you are kind of fresh starting out, that you don't need your FMP or your SFP. Those are both very valuable credentials and will help you build up to the CFM.
mhm,
Maybe if you're not quite ready yet, the CFM does have eligibility requirements. So you either have to have 3 years of experience in at least 6 of the competencies, or and an FM degree, or 5 years of experience in 6 of the FM competencies. So if you're not quite there on the eligibility area, skilling yourself up with the other credentials is a great idea as well.
yeah.
And I also wanted to touch on, Gail. Go ahead. Sorry, I saw you.
I was just going to mention the whole flexibility piece of our training. Again, if you're not ready to earn the FMP credential, you can break those 4 courses down if it makes more sense for you. Is that where you were going with this? Um,
No, but that's a fantastic point. I'm glad you brought it up.
So if you are great in project management and you just want to fill any gaps that you again may not know that you have, start with that course, complete it, make it more bite sized, make it more about what's going to be best for you. Eventually, you'll complete all 4 and earn the credential. But if a credential is not in your timeline, if it's not in your budget, we do have ways for you to still get the training, still complete the training, all the while keeping that in the forefront of eventually I'm going to earn my FMP. And so I think I just wanted to mention that piece too, that the
Mhm.
FMP is flexible in that sense.
Yeah. And even all of the core competencies, the company I
Hmm.
was with after I had my FMP and just after I got my SFP was growing and needed real estate. And so I went and grabbed the real estate course and took that. And that was amazing what I learned there that helped me to go out and purchase 2 properties and renovate them for the company that I worked for.
Great. Well, and I just kind of want to to jump on the flexibility train again. So the reason that IFMA is so flexible, we want to meet you where you are and we want you to succeed. So part of the way that we do that is we try to adapt to your learning style. We have several different options available. We do offer printed books for our courses. So if you're the type that likes to highlight and write down notes, which I am that type, then we do have those available for you. Every IFMA course is going to have online content, but we do have the printed resources available as well. And another piece that we have are virtual instructor-led courses. So Brent, I want to get kind of your take on that, because you not only took instructor-led courses, you are using instructor-led courses now.
Yeah. Everybody has their own learning style, like you said. Some people can simply read through the material and they've got it. And great. If that's your style, go for it. If and even IFMA even has two ways there. You can get the hard copy books, or you can do it all online and do it electronically if that's your preferred method of reading and studying. But the instructor-led courses, hearing the years of experience that the instructors have as they're explaining finance, or maybe they're explaining leadership and strategy, or whatever it is, and to hear some of their war stories, as it were, really made it real and made it really hit home. Because when they're talking about their war stories, sometimes I'm thinking about something similar that happened, and I'm going, oh, okay, if I had done this or known this then, this might have turned out differently. So I highly recommend the instructor-led courses just for that. It's not only do you learn, but it also validates in a lot of cases things that you have done, and gives you a little more confidence because of that.
And I've had conversations with people very similar. They don't understand how to put the concept where they can break it down and really apply it. And it's like, okay, well, not every organization does it the same, but the concept is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to have, yeah, that networking opportunity where, okay, well, at my company, this is how we did it. At Starlin's company, that's how she did it. Same situation, maybe a little bit different, slightly different, but it's going to end up with the same result, right? You want that data driven
Yeah.
decision to say, if this is how we do it and approach it this way, then this would be our outcome. Is that the best outcome? And then
And
it gives you that opportunity just to kind of talk with the other people in your class and the instructor to say, oh, yeah, if we could have done it differently, maybe the outcome would have been better.
yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about IFMA's courses is they really kind of teach us what about a subject. What is finance and business? What is leadership and strategy? Not how necessarily, because if you know the what, the how is there. If you know what you're doing, then the how comes with it. So it's not giving you the details of how to do our job. It's giving us what our job is, so that we can figure out within the framework of the company we're working for how to do the job.
That's a great point. That and it goes across industries. IFMA is made up of geographical chapters as well as councils and communities of different industries. So IFMA credentials span across the entire planet for a reason, because it's our training isn't so niche that you can't apply it in different areas. And it also helps out if for any reason you are planning to move industries, you can take it with you and stay a facility manager. So the last thing we really wanted to dig into today was really kind of clarifying the process, because sometimes that's a mountain to climb and it can be a little bit intimidating. So Brent, did you have any hiccups along the way? Was there anything challenging about getting an IFMA credential? If so, how did you navigate that?
Well, I think when I got my FMP, the challenge was I had also just started a new job. So I was trying to learn the company I'm with and the people and the job, trying to get my FMP. Oh yeah, and then some little thing called COVID hit in the middle of all of that as well. So my timing was not the best, but I got through it. And I think scheduling the time, I finally just went and put blocks on my calendar. This is when I'm going to be studying for my FMP, and that worked best for me instead of just trying to haphazardly get it when I can. Um, I'm a book guy like you, Starlin. I like books and highlighting, so I found a little trick that I used was when I was reading the books, I highlighted in one color things that I thought were important that I appreciated. But then when I would take the quizzes and chapter exams, I would go back and highlight the answers to those questions in a second color. Now I knew that that's really important. That's what IFMA wants me to know here. And then I used a third color when I took the competency exam. I would go back and highlight those in a third color to give me a little more. So now when I go through my books, I know pink means that's on the final exam. That's critical. I need to look at that especially.
That is fantastic. That is wonderful insight in how you navigated that, because it is a lot of information. And that's what I also wanted to kind of communicate is these are significant courses,
Mm-hmm.
college level, basically. Like this is something that you would encounter as an adult learner. It's a lot of information and can sometimes be complex. And so it's definitely important to go through the material, to study, even if you're in a virtual course. Yes, you're walking through it with an IFMA qualified instructor. And the value there is that you get to discuss the content that you're reading. So we definitely want you both studying outside of the classroom, but also being able to participate inside the classroom. So other than that, was the application part, was that fairly easy? It's a simple process. You want to kind of shine some light on that?
Yeah, that's that. What again? I think once you know what you're doing, figuring out how to do it is comes pretty simple. So applying what I learned was pretty easy. And then I found that what I needed to do once I learned it was, obviously I'm not going to train my staff to be an FMP, but nonetheless, training them to follow the same concepts and understand some of the things that I understood, because sometimes they look at me like I was from some strange planet somewhere when I'm talking to them. And I go, okay, sit down. Let's have a 10-minute conversation here about what this means and why we need to do it this way. What the overall overarching purpose of this is, and that helped within the facilities organization as well for everybody to be better on the same page and making that application.
Fantastic.
I feel like that also kind of embeds that natural internal succession planning.
Mm-hmm.
If you have somebody who's right there willing to, okay, well, this is how, Pete did it for 5 years, so we're just going to keep doing it this way because it works, and not understanding like why. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And now with the application of technology, that's just another added layer of all this intricate work that could, leads room for improvement, leads room for failure of different things. And then making sure that you're watching like the data, because we
Yeah.
can't make decisions if we don't have the data. So it's all like a cyclical little transition into, making sure that, excuse me, whoever's going to be in charge is setting the path for the next person with all the working pieces that are happening in the background. And it's having the right people in the right place. It's ensuring that they have, if they don't have a credential, they at least have the training on the job that could help lead them to the path of a credential or some kind of training so that they can just be better at what it is they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. And not everybody on your staff needs an FMP, but I've found that the essentials is a phenomenal course for people to go through to be able to be on the same page with the facilities team. If you've got someone who basically deals with the software and the work orders and that sort of thing, they need to understand what FMP and facilities management is about, and that essentials course is great for that, for giving them that basic knowledge. So, yeah, there's so many offerings from IFMA that I really appreciate that no matter where you are in your career, there's something there to help you improve your knowledge and your career at the same time.
That's a great point, Brent, about the essentials. And also, we actually have had the experience of people who their actual professional, I'm trying to think of, like, their performance reviews are done by HR or a different department, someone that's overseeing facilities, but they may be more in an operational role higher up in the company. And I don't necessarily know that everyone is aware of all the things that facility managers are responsible for. And I've heard validation from facility managers that say, yes, I would love for my HR manager or whomever it is that is going to conduct that performance review to go through the essentials simply to understand the depth and the breadth of everything that a facility manager touches. And so there's value there too. It's not just for FM, you could also do it in adjacent roles as well. So
That's
I appreciate you bringing that up.
that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. That it would be good for for the C-suite to go through it. As a matter of fact, understand what it is that we're doing out there in the field.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of decisions that get made by the C suite, but the facility managers are the ones with the boots on the ground implementing
Mhm.
whatever the strategies or the decisions are. So it's
Yeah,
important to know what your facility managers are running into as you make these decisions. So
yeah,
great point. Um,
definitely.
well, the last piece we really have here is how to help you who are watching and listening today to align your career goals with the right credential at where you are in this career path right now. And I know I've seen a lot of different questions kind of coming through as we've been chatting, asking, well, where do I fit in? What applies to me? I have X amount of experience. The very first step is going to be to take our career compass survey. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to share a code here for you to be able to scan, and we're also going to be putting it in the chat with whatever you're watching from so that you can access that, go through the questions, and it will give you an answer at the end of this. It's a 2-minute survey. This is not something that's going to take up your whole day. And if you agree with that, fantastic. But if you want some more information or want to talk to somebody, reach out to us. We are happy to have a conversation with you. Our team email is corporateconnections@ifma.org. And we are more than happy to set up a meeting if it's that amount of questions, or if you just want to shoot us a quick email with a quick question, we're happy to answer that way as well.
So yeah, just a quick recap of the takeaways. Thank you, Brent, so much for joining us
You're
today.
welcome.
We do have training programs available for no matter what role you're in, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what your learning journey is. We're here to help you get through them or just determine where to start or what your next steps are. We do have resources, as Starlin mentioned. We're here to cheerlead. Everybody on our team is ready to help you get started or even finish. If you have questions about virtual classes or just accountability, how do I make sure that I complete this? I've purchased it. What's the next step? We're here. We have people on our team who can answer that as well. I guess the next step would be to provide our little nugget of a discount. So
Yes.
anybody who is looking to enroll today through March 6th, we do have training discount codes that you can use. You can use FM Training 50 to take $50 off any of those core competency courses that we talked about earlier. Or if you are interested in enrolling in the Essentials of FM series, you could also take $50 off of that course as well. If you are looking for the FMP, the SFP, or the core competency bundle, you can use the FM Training 100 code to take $100 off of those bundles. You do not have to be a member to take advantage of this. We also do have GSA pricing available for federal employees. Email us to see if you qualify for that GSA pricing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Gail, and thank you again, Brent, for coming. As you may have seen on the last slide, Brent so gracefully shared his LinkedIn profile. So if you have heard what he's had to say or have questions about his particular path, or have some questions for Brent about his journey with IFMA, he has graciously allowed us to allow his contact information to be out there for LinkedIn. So please feel free to reach out to him if you see necessary. Brent, any closing remarks?
Just, know where you are and where you want to be, and don't get in your head when you're taking the exams. If you've thoroughly read through and studied the paperwork, the courses, you will pass the exam without a problem.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again, Brent. And with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, if you have questions that you feel may not have been answered, please feel free to reach out to us at corporateconnections@ifma.org.